A light in the storm. Soft, measured pace. Thomas Brennan had been a widower for 3 years. His small apartment above the hardware store wasn't much. Just 2 bedrooms, a worn sofa, and a kitchen table that wobbled, unless you knew which leg to avoid. But it was home to him and his 12-year-old son, Danny. Pause. Thomas worked 2 jobs now. Days at the hardware store, evenings cleaning offices downtown. The bills kept coming, and raising a boy alone, well, it took everything he had. Some nights he'd fall asleep in his work clothes, too tired to change. Gentle transition. It was a Tuesday evening in November when he found her. Rain was coming down in sheets, the kind that soaks you through in seconds. Thomas was walking home from the bus stop, collar turned up against the wind, when he saw her huddled in the doorway of the closed diner. She couldn't have been more than 16. Soaked to the bone, shivering with a small backpack clutched to her chest. Her eyes were red from crying. Pause, warmth in voice. Now Thomas was a cautious man. Life had taught him to be, but he was also his mother's son, and she'd raised him to help when help was needed. "Miss?" he called out gently. "Are you all right?" She looked up, startled. "I'm fine," she said quickly. Too quickly. Just waiting for someone. Thomas glanced at the empty street, the darkening sky. He knew that lie. He'd told it himself once years ago when pride was all he had left. "Listen," he said softly. "I've got a sofa. It's not fancy, but it's dry and warm. You can stay tonight. Figure things out in the morning. No strings. I've got a son your age, well, younger, but I understand kids sometimes need a safe place." Pause. She studied his face for a long moment. Whatever she saw there must have convinced her, because she nodded. Her name was Emily, that's all she'd say at first. Scene transition. At the apartment, Thomas gave her towels, made her hot tea, and heated up leftover stew. Danny, curious but polite like his father had taught him, offered her his gaming console to play while she ate. "You don't have to talk about it," Thomas said quietly, sitting across from her at the wobbly table. "But if you're running from something dangerous, we should call someone who can help." Emily shook her head. "I'm not in danger. Not like that. I needed to see if I could make it on my own. If anyone would help me without knowing who I was." Pause, contemplative tone. Thomas understood that feeling more than she knew. After his wife Margaret died, he'd wondered the same thing. Who was he without her? Could he do this alone? "Making it on your own is overrated," he said gently. "Accepting help when you need it? That's the brave thing." Warmth in voice. Emily stayed 3 days. She helped Danny with his math homework. She was sharp as a tack, that girl. She washed dishes without being asked and made pancakes on Thursday morning that were better than anything Thomas had managed in years. On the 3rd evening, she finally told them. Her father was Robert Ashford. Yes, like that Ashford, the one whose buildings dotted the city skyline. She'd run away because she wanted to know if people would be kind to just Emily, not to the Ashford fortune. "And?" Thomas asked simply. "And you were," she said, tears in her eyes. "You gave me your home when you barely have enough for yourself. Danny shared his room, his things. You didn't want anything from me." Thomas smiled. "That's what people do, Emily, real people anyway. We look after each other." Gentle transition, slightly brighter tone. When Robert Ashford arrived, after Emily finally called him, he was a man transformed by relief and gratitude. He tried to offer Thomas money, a better apartment, a new car. Thomas refused it all. "I don't want your money, Mr. Ashford," he said firmly but kindly. "I've got what I need." But Robert was persistent. "Then let me do this. There's a manager position opening at one of my properties. Real job, real pay, 9 to 5 hours. Let me give you back your evenings with your son." Pause, emotion in voice. That, Thomas accepted. Not charity, opportunity. Slow, reflective pace. Years later, Danny would tell the story at his own daughter's bedding time. How his father had taught him the most important lesson, that wealth isn't measured in what you have, but in what you're willing to share. And Emily? She never forgot the wobbling table, the worn sofa, or the man who saw a person, not a problem. She built her life on that memory, choosing always to see people for who they were, not what they could give her. Final pause, warm and gentle. Because sometimes, the richest thing we can offer another person is simply our kindness. No questions asked. No payment expected, just one human being, reaching out to another in the rain. Soft close. And that, my friends, is worth more than all the money in the world. Total character count and by 247.